I don't think she had an idea how sexual I actually was as a bachelor.
Yeah.
That I was juggling 5 or 6 chicks a month type stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of women are clueless about what it actually takes to maintain a guy's sexual relationship, because if you just look at it from a number standpoint, I went from sleeping with 5 to 6 women a month for 20, 30 months straight to where I'm being faithful over a year, and I just hit one of my old hoes once or twice. Like, from a guy, that's like a 97% reduction. You know what I'm saying? Like, so from my perspective, I'm like, fool, look how much sex I done passed up when I'm not even satisfied.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Introspect Club, a club where you can learn a lot about yourself through conversations with other people. My name is Jeff Demise, and I'll be your host. How is everybody doing today? I know I'm doing all right. I got a brand new shirt now. I'm just flaunting it, trying to be sexy here. But anyway, I literally just took this out the box and just put it on. I'm not gonna tell you where I got it. Here's the deal. I have a very interesting guest for us today or tonight, depending on when you're listening to this. I want to talk about the transition that a man goes through from being single to being married. A lot of people have a false interpretation of what it's like for a man in that stage of his life and transitioning into something that's a little bit more, I guess, secure with a lot more responsibility. There is a man that has his own podcast called From Hoe to Husband. Think about that for a second. Are men really hoes, if you really think about it, before they get married? If you think about it, we're really guys that are trying to explore and trying to dominate things sexually. From the outside looking in, some people might call us hoes. This guy called himself a hoe on his own podcast. It says that he was a hoe initially, and now he's a husband and a father. And I'm curious to figure out why he took that extreme to call himself that and see what that transition is like into marriage, because a lot of women complain, I'm dealing with these buff boys, I'm dealing with these, like hoe ass dudes. I don't know if that's how he identifies himself, but a lot of women want to know why guys do certain things when they're single instead of doing some of the things that I guess would be more ideal, or the things that's part of a fairy tale, if you will. But let's dig into it. All right. I want to introduce this very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Terry Duran, author and podcaster. What's going on, my man?
What's going on, bro? I appreciate you bringing me on.
Thanks for coming, man. I told you earlier, this guy looks like Yo Gotti, like no lie. Yo Gotti right here. I feel like you should be stepping out of a Phantom right now before we even start this conversation.
Go ahead and speak it to existence, baby.
Welcome to the show. Give everybody a quick introduction of who you are, what you're about, and what kind of value you want to bring to this conversation.
I'm an author, podcaster, and I'm a social media influencer. I've been pretty popular on social media, giving relationship advice for a while now. And so what I bring to the table is an authentic male perspective on what dating is really like. I call out a lot of the pandering and a lot of the misinformation that's put out about relationships. And I speak about things very candidly from a perspective of a man that is extremely successful with women without having to lie or deceive them to do so. And so my focus is, just trying to provide an authentic perspective on what life is like, or what things are like for husband material men.
So you said something here, a man who was very successful with women, but yet you have a podcast called From Hoe to Husband. Why did you call it that?
That kind of represents my journey. Being a hoe from a male perspective requires a lot of skill if you're not rich or famous. And so a lot of the skill set to be able to be successful with the women that other guys really want. That's something that other guys I've observed, they want to learn how you do it. They want to, what'd you say? How'd you do it?
Yeah,
How'd
yeah,
you get
yeah.
her to do this? And so it's a lot of skill involved in it that you're not really aware of in the moment. I never thought I'd be, doing interviews and discussing what it takes to be a hoe.
What it takes to be a hoe. Okay, no, but I want to know, okay, how did that even start, right? So you said you were very successful with women. Is that something that was natural for you? And describe to me what that success looks like. Is that based on a quantity or outcome? What are we talking about?
Me personally, I measure success by like a hidden percentage. You shoot your shot. What percentage of the women do you end up dating or sleeping with? A guy, to me, success is around 30-40%. If you're shooting your shot at attractive women and you end up you get a third of them, or 40% of them to like you enough to sleep with you, you're doing something right.
Okay.
If you didn't lie to them or sell them dreams or do some of the other things that other guys do. But when women genuinely like your personality and like what you bring to the table, it's easy to rack up numbers like that.
Okay, so give me an idea of how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 43.
You're 43. How old were you when you think your hoe phase started?
Probably about 15, probably.
15.
I mean, I started having sex around 14, 15 consistently, but I had my first threesome at 16, so 15, 16-ish.
You had your first threesome at 16.
Yeah.
Where were your parents?
It worked.
So I'm just trying to picture like what was, because when I was younger, like I grew up in kind of like a religious atmosphere. So like I personally withheld myself from having any too early sexual experiences. Now, my first sexual experience still was at 17, but it wasn't like extremely active, right? I just kind of slipped, right? But like that's me trying to hold off, and there were women that wanted to like have sex with me, but I was like, no, I'm saving myself for marriage. I was that guy, right? But here you are,
opposite of me.
Yeah, you're the opposite, right? You're the girl, you're the guy that my exes ran to when I told them no. Okay, probably. All right, but at the same time, if you're 16, was this like something that was taught to you to be like a savage as a man at 16 years old, or is this something that you kind of saw through somebody else, or is this like an internal thing that you just developed just out of sheer desire?
Well, I wouldn't even say I was a savage at that age. I was learning,
Okay.
For men, it's a trial and error for the most part.
Okay.
You learn observing behavior patterns and seeing what works and don't work for other guys and things of that nature. So I just had heart to say certain things and ask certain questions to women, to girls. I've always been a great communicator, so I could, I had got my own phone line at 14, so I could be on the phone late at night, 11, 12.
You had your own phone line. What does that mean?
Back in the 90s, where you had the house phone.
Yeah.
You could get a extra line installed in just one room. So I had a phone line in my bedroom to where I didn't have to share a phone with my mom and my stepdad anymore. Had my own answer machine, so I had my lit R&B messages going down, and it was lit. like a call center, baby.
Wait, whose idea was this to give you the phone line?
It was a Christmas gift. I mean, once you on the phone all the time and your mom, get on the phone, T. You know what I'm saying? Like once they get tired of you being on the phone all the time, it was only like $30 a month or something like that. So it was a.
And let me guess, you're using this phone line to call mostly women?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I had homeboys that I would talk to. I mean, can I come spend a night over your crib? But for the most part, my late night conversations, definitely.
Because you know,
and it was crazy because now that I think about that, because I think I was an extremist, right? So not only was I on the phone with girls for long periods of times, I would be in the mirror practicing my body language and how to talk, how to make sure you look fly in front of girls and things of that nature. And I just got so advanced with it. I just kind of perfected learning how women operated in a lot of ways in regards to dating.
So how many women would you say you slept with? If you had to put a number.
Man, the last time I counted, it was around 111-ish. Something, you know, like.
And how long ago did you count?
115. This was probably like 7-8 years ago.
7-8 years ago. And then you started at 16, so 7 or 8 years ago, that's probably you're what, 35, 37? That's like,
I mean, but I've been married. Actually, this week will be 18 years. So, man, majority of that time was from being in a high school in at a HBCU. That's where I would say.
Oh, so from high school to college, you slept with like over 100 women.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now it's starting to make sense. Because I'll be honest with you, throughout adulthood, 100 is not really a crazy amount. But that's me.
No, oh no, I know dudes that do.
Yeah. It's not.
I've been, like I said, I got married at 25. So
okay, so
I had a short Hall of Fame bachelor career.
All right.
So then I was off the market.
So from 16 to 25. So for 10 years, you were sleeping with an average of 10 women a year.
I guess you can look at it like that. It
on average,
the art don't necessarily. Yeah.
I got you. I'm sure it was exponential growth over time, but like on average, 10 women a year. But if you looked at maybe the average of the last, 3 or 5 years prior to you get married, it was probably 15, 20 women a year, depending on what you had access to, right? Which is now, if you look at it like that, 15, 20 women a year, that's like. You might as well be unemployed, just screwing all the time, because I don't know where you get the time. Okay, so how many relationships have you been in prior to you getting married?
I had 4 girlfriends in my life total, but my wife is my first like adult committed relationship.
Okay, so what do you think set you apart from your friends that maybe were not having success with women?
Well, that's the thing. A lot of my friends were having success. It was it was a synergy of being around other guys that were attractive and had hoes and was popping. Yeah, so when you're around other guys that are very successful women and are focused on getting numbers and shooting a shot at chicks, every cute chick got a cute friend, and so it's always like they need somebody like that can come through that they know the friend is gonna like, because that puts everybody in a position to win. So just that having those type of relationships with my homies made it successful, because they could always put me on a chick, and 9 times out of 10 I'm cute enough. I ain't got to be the most handsome dude on earth. I'm 6 feet tall, so I meet almost all the measurements that most women have.
Yeah.
My conversation's cool. I'm a good wingman, you know what I mean? And I'm the nerd that is evaluating the situation to where I set off orgies. I figure out which chicks is down.
What do you mean you set off orgies? What does that mean?
spark the conversations, spark the truth or dare game. Like you do things that put sex in the atmosphere for lack of a better time.
How many orgies have you had?
Not a lot, man. Probably about 7 or 8 total.
How old were you when you had your first orgy?
16, I think. 15, 16. No, it was my junior year, 16.
So you had a threesome and an orgy at 16.
Well, just I don't know exactly. It was 2 girls and me, and then we switched with my best friend. So it wasn't a orgy because we wasn't all in the same room. But I guess the best way to describe
y'all had a sex party.
It was sex party. That I guess I don't know what 16. To call it, man. This is in the 90s. It wasn't that popular.
Let me ask you: were your parents aware that you were like that sexually active when you were young?
My mom knew I was sexually active. She wasn't stupid, but my mom was cool. She had a unique situation with me. She just basically she told me that she would rather me be safe and have sex in her house than to get caught in somebody else's house.
Interesting.
So my mom was just kind of like, had them hoes out my house before I get home from work, make sure my house is clean. I don't, kind of out of sight, out of mind type of vibes. And so it was cool. Like there was times when my mom called and I was in the middle of having sex. You know what I'm saying?
Bro,
like,
that's crazy. That's crazy. Bro, if my mom calls me while I'm in the middle of having sex, I go flaccid. Okay? That phone gotta be off. And for you to be talking on the phone with your mom while you're having sex, that's like a porn category. Okay? That's what that is.
Well, no, it wasn't like that. But in the 90s, if your mom know you at home and that phone ring, you gotta answer it. Back then, you didn't know who was calling and all that. So she could just tell, like, by my breathing, she knew I wasn't working out. So she put.
That's crazy. Wait. Because this is the 90s, like you said, right? My question is, like, do you think that success would translate the same way in this environment? Because you have to understand.
Oh, yeah.
When you
absolutely.
Hold on. Just pause for a second before you say absolutely. All right? You're talking about you had a landline phone. Okay? There was no social media that you were competing with. You were just competing with the guy next door. Right? So your competition wasn't that crazy, right? Because you were all within the same social circles and things like that. And if you can get a girl on the phone, then you're locked in. Because back then, I used to make this joke with my brothers. Well, one of my brothers. If you kiss a woman, you pretty much own her back then. You hold her hand in the hallway, that's your girlfriend, right? Today's environment, you have a baby with somebody, you still don't know where y'all at in the relationship.
Yeah, it would be very different. But to be successful with women, like you said, all it takes is initiating conversation or private conversation. And
Okay.
you got so many opportunities to do that. You can do it through text, through DM, through email, through like there's unlimited ways to get to it. So it wouldn't be I'd be a lot more efficient today. Because I don't have to spend hours on the phone with a chick to get to know her to find out, or for sure she had the sexual interest I have in her is mutual, because essentially that's what guys are trying to figure out. And the guys that figure out how to do it more efficiently, just you can get through the processing a lot faster. So you can either get through the I like you or the rejection a lot faster than waiting 3 weeks or going on 4 or 5 dates and all those type of things. So I don't think a lot of guys think about it like that, but I was a nerd. So I was just looking at it from like an efficiency standpoint and just what worked and what didn't.
Did you ever like these women? Like genuinely like these women? Was it mostly sexual for you?
Yeah.
So
no, well, to me, the sexual component has to be there for me to get your number or whatever. But yeah, we loud. That's crazy. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like the conversations are always great. That's what makes a chick really like you. Okay. You can have a conversation where she remembers you or she can't wait to talk to you again. You in there.
So right now you are married, correct?
Correct.
But before you got married, did you ever like have any, let's say, pregnancy scares with anybody?
Yeah. Of course, every dude had that, I think. Yeah, I've had chicks. Man, my history is I got a lot of situations, but I've had
What's the worst?
Chicks falsely accused of rape.
Wow. You had a woman falsely accuse you of rape?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
why?
We was teenagers, so it was a girl that did it, but yeah, that happened.
Why did that happen?
Well, story time, real quick, man. So I went to the military at 17, and so when I got to the military, I was sneaking in the clubs with my compadres or whatever. Okay. And so I met a chick in the club. She was 16, I was 17. So we talked on the phone a couple of times or whatever, and that was about it. So about 5 or 6 months go by, and I happened to just see her in the barracks in the parking lot. Me and my best friend pulling up from somewhere, and she's in the parking lot. So I'm like, oh, what's good? What's up? You know what I'm saying? I just start chopping it up with her, convinced her to come up to the room. So boom, we get to the room, we kissing, fingering, it's going down or whatever. And my roommate calls. He like, hey man, her homegirl about to leave. So I'm like, man, I don't care. I tell her I'll take her home or whatever. Well, as I turn around, chick is pulling her panties up and getting back dressed. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't think nothing of it. Hug her, tell her goodbye, whatever. So she leaves. Okay. So I'm call my partner back, to tell him how she faked me out. Like, man, I was about to smash whatever. He like, man, her homegirl left. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, man, I know this hoe ain't out here. Somehow hung up from him. I walk outside. She just walking around randomly. What? You know what I mean? So I'm like, man, I'll take you home, bro. Like, just because we ain't have sex don't mean I'm going to just leave you stranded or whatever. So I drive her home. Okay. And that's where things go left. Man, when I dropped her off, bro, her mama was on the porch waiting for her. What? When I say her mom started beating her ass, I'm talking about like soon as she got dragging her by her hair type shit. So I'm looking in the rearview mirror at, you know what I'm saying?
Like, I'm out of here.
The message. Yeah, like I can't do nothing about that. So boom, next day I go to work, get off work. I'm in my room playing Madden with my roommate. And I'm on the phone with another chick that's like I said, I was 17. So another chick that went to high school with the girl. Okay. And so she's just she's talking to me in code kind of. She like, man, you heard what happened last night? And I'm like, no, what happened? Like, man, I have to kill somebody if that happened to me. So she just keep talking about it. So I'm, it's sitting off my radar. So I'm like, man, let me hit you back. I call old girl. I'm like, hey, you told somebody I raped you or something? And her response was, I didn't say it. My friend did. What? And so that was her response. So to get out of the ass, the being in trouble, she went to the victim card. I got raped by a soldier. It makes sense logically why it happened. But so long story short, I end up getting arrested by the military police. They take my statement and all that stuff, and take blood, take semen sample, all that, man. They stuck a little Q-tip down my penis, take hair samples. Rape kits are the worst, bro. It's the most invasive thing you'll probably ever experience. What? But they ended up dismissing the case like the following morning because her story was so unbelievable. Like she told them she saw me pull up in the parking lot. I snatched her purse and ran to my room. So she chased me to my room. What? When we got in the room, she said she sat down on my bed and fell asleep. And when she woke up, I was smashing her raw. That's what got me off. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if I had actually like, let me stick the head in, you know what I'm saying, type thing, I probably would have been in jail. But I went from fingering to going to my nightstand to get a rubber. And so I never got no penis to vagina action.
So you never even had sex? You never really had like intercourse with her?
No, we just went from kissing, little fingering, head wasn't popular in the 90s, so it wasn't no head. It was just, little finger action, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, and then, like I said, when I turned around, I was getting the rubber, the phone rang, and by the time I got off the phone, she was pulling her panties back up. So, that was the worst situation. No, I can't even say that's the worst situation, man. I can't even say that.
You had worse? What's worse?
Yeah.
What's worse than being falsely accused of rape?
A girl's dad busting in on you with a gun in his hand.
What?
So it's crazy, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, my story is crazy.
You can't skip that. What does that mean?
So, all right. So I had another chick in town that I was smashing. And her dad was in the military, so they lived in like the military housing. And so she would sneak me in her window at night, beat it up, you know what I'm saying? And it was all good. Well, we never knew that her door didn't actually lock. You know what I'm saying? No. So one night we in the middle of it and the door just busts open and her dad flip on the lights, you know what I'm saying? So I'm been down trying to pull up my underwear. He puts the gun in my mouth.
Stop.
Like, and he did it so hard, like the barrel like slid on my teeth and like busted my lip. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm sorry, sir. You know what I'm saying? I'm just in panic mode. The girl's mom busts in the room to figure out what's going on. The dad points the gun at her. He like, bitch, you the one that let him come over here, because they love me. Like, parents love me because I'm, got my shit together.
Listen, you got a gun in your mouth. They don't love you that much.
He points. Yeah, but he points the gun at the wife, because I was all at the house all the time or whatever. But a few minutes later, the MPs got there, so they ended up arresting me for trespassing. But those charges got dismissed because she let me in. So yeah, it was crazy how all that happened, and my reputation with women was just like, damn, he cool with it, because the day that the rape thing happened. It's so funny because they interviewed other people in the barracks. That morning, a stripper had left my room. Like, when we was leaving to go, we was late for physical training. People saw a stripper leaving my room, so they was like, "He ain't gotta rape nobody." Like, he LeBron James.
So basically, the fact that you were a hoe saved you from the rape accusations.
Well, her stupid story and the fact that I didn't actually have sex with her saved me.
I know, I'm exaggerating,
but my reputation did help. It did help to because I didn't have no motive to rape her. You know what I mean?
Right. That's wild. See, this is the kind of stuff that makes me wonder, like, is there an advantage to that lifestyle where you are having so much promiscuous sex at a young age? Given the stories you just told me about being falsely accused of rape, being held at gunpoint by a woman's father, is there any value looking back to that experience that brought you to where you are today?
I move different when it comes to sex and consent. It made me aware of how easily a guy could get caught up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think about it all the time. What if it had been a white girl? What if this? What if that? You know what I'm saying? Like, a whole bunch of things could have went wrong in that situation.
So your story reminds me of something that happened to me, right? I remember one time, this is not even any particular one time. This is a story of how I lost my virginity. Okay? I don't know if I've ever told this story on this podcast. So my first ever girlfriend was not first ever girlfriend. The first person that I had sex with, I was 17. Okay.
How old was she?
We're in the same grade. So she was probably 17 also. That's the beginning of senior year. And she was Jewish. Okay. But she was one of those like Jewish girls that was very hip hop. I don't know why. But anyway, she loved the Wu-Tang, whatever. She knows who she is. So anyway, she used to have parties at her house all the time, right? And you know, her father was cool with like all these parties. We used to go to her. Everybody used to go to her crib. We used to like no drinking, nothing like that. But they had a pool, so we was always out there. And the only reason why we dated was like everybody in the in our class was like, "Yo, Jeff is cute, you cute, y'all should be together." And that's how we got together. It was just the dumbest thing ever. You know what I'm saying? They're like Jeff's handsome and you're a pretty girl. We should see this match. This is like what social media was like in the early 90s. Well, this was like early 2000s, right? So anyway, so one time, so she drove. She had a car. She always had a car. I didn't have a car. And she lived like about 45 minutes from me. So she would come and pick me up, 45-minute drive, and then drive me to her dad's crib, right? And we used to hang out. But nothing used to happen until one particular night, right? She brought me to her father's crib because her father was leaving the house for whatever reason. Okay. And her father left and we were in the room. I think she was on the phone or something like that. And she was sitting on my lap and things just kind of got hot and heavy. She got off the phone and then we started getting intimate. Right. I didn't know what I was doing. This is my first time. Right. I'm in her bedroom. Right. All of a sudden, like I'm in the room, I'm in her bed or whatever, and I'm getting it in, and all of a sudden the dog starts barking crazy. She had a dog. The door was closed, but she had a dog in the house. And I'm like, what is wrong with that dog? And she's like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And I go back to doing what I was doing. I'm like, no, that dog just keeps barking. What is the problem? So I lift my head up, and my head happens to be next to the window facing outside by the street. And I see this Mustang sitting in front of the house. And I'm like, was that car there the whole time? And she's like, what car? I'm like, that Mustang. She's like, Mustang? It's like, that's my dad's car. I'm like, your dad's home? And I'm sitting there like, what? I thought he was gone. He's like, he was. I don't know when he came back. So he was actually just getting out of the car and entering the house, and we're naked. Right? So then I hear the front door of the house open. I'm like, oh, and there's a short distance from the front door to the to her bedroom. So the lights are off in the bedroom, but the lights are on in the hallway. So you can see his footsteps coming to the door, and I'm hurrying up, trying to put clothes on. I'm just finding random things to put on, right? So then the door opens slowly because we didn't lock it. Nobody was supposed to be home. The door opens slowly, and it's him. And I have I put my pants on, but I had a wife beater, and my zipper was open, right? She had a shirt on with no bra underneath, but her shirt was inside out, right? We looked crazy. I don't even know if she had pants. And her dad was at the doorway, and because there was no lights in the room and there was lights behind him, all you could see is his silhouette and the dog, and he's petting the dog, looking at me, and I'm like, this guy's gonna kill me, right? So then so I'm sitting there like, I don't know what to do here, right? And mind you, this is the first time I've had sex. This is my first sexual experience.
I was like, all right, was you traumatized, bro?
So then here's what happened. So then he's petting the dog. I'm like, he's gonna pounce on me. I'm gonna have to fight this guy. So you can imagine this dude walks in, his Jewish daughter sitting with this random black dude in the bedroom, barely any clothes on. I'm like, he's gonna kill me. You know what he says? He looks in the room and he goes, honey, grandma's in the hospital. She's not gonna make it. I'm like, what?
Whoa.
And I'm like, I don't know what. So the dad's like, we need to go to the hospital. And then I'm like, looking at her, I'm like, you my ride home. Right?
No Uber back then.
No.
Baby.
So I ended up going to the hospital with them. Where I met her whole family. Okay? So I'm in the car with her. I don't know if I was just in her car and her dad was with us or there were separate cars, but we ended up all in the hospital. There was no discussion about this whole sexual experience. So now I go to the hospital where all the other family members were there with the grandma. I don't know if it was grandma or auntie or whoever. They were around her by the bed. And I'm literally at the foot of the bed waiting for someone to drop me home. So this random little black boy. So I don't know what to do here. There's no Ubers. I didn't have a car. She was my only ride home. I lived 45 minutes away. There was no bus that was going to get me home. I'm at the foot of the bed, this little black boy staring at this Jewish family watching this lady who's sick in the hospital. I was sitting there like, this has been an interesting night. So anyway, that was my first sexual experience. So you can imagine it was not the same as yours. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's funny, man. Did y'all got a second chance, or was that?
So here's the thing, bro. Like, needless to say, like, I wasn't a top performer on my first shot, right?
I don't think nobody is.
Yeah, and I have no idea what her experience was like. And I only had sex with her one time after that at my parents' house, because I don't trust her house anymore and I didn't want to be stranded anymore. And that was like the one other time. So I only had sex twice. And then afterwards, like, it was only like a 3-month thing. I was just like, I got kind of bored of it. I was like, hey, I think we should just quit this. And then that was it. It wasn't anything crazy. Like, I wasn't like that invested in it, like, emotionally. You know what I mean? But yeah, dude. That's what it was. That's what it was. Jesus. Now I'm thinking back in my life. So now you're married, right? What was it like for you when you're actually meeting your now wife? Is this something that happened through your casual experiences with women, or was this something that was intentional from the beginning?
I met my wife my very first day of college, walking to my very first class. So I shot my shot on my way to my first class in college.
You don't waste no time.
At the time.
Uh-huh.
Well, at a HBCU, man, you it's so many women that you really, and it's so many dudes that are successful women. You don't really got no choice, man. The guys that have the confidence and the heart to go shoot their shot are the ones that have the success. And like I said, I had been in the military, so I was already a seasoned veteran. I was older than most. I was 20 and not 18. So I was older than the freshman that was coming in. And I had, my dating position was a lot different. I was on some grown man shit because I had went to the military. So I'm paying all my own bills. I got my own car. I got my own apartment.
Got it.
That stands out compared to a dude asking you to come to the dorm room. So I was able to just come at chicks that's tired in the dorm and come through. We gonna cook. I'm gonna fix some drinks. We gonna do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could just present a whole vibe for chicks.
Whole vibe or whole vibe?
Without it. Whole vibe.
Okay.
but I mean, they could come through. Hey, you can do laundry in my crib. Like, it was just a bunch of positives for chicks to come through. But when it came to meet my wife, it didn't start off great. You know what I mean? Like, we talked on the phone or whatnot, but we didn't actually start dating until a couple years later. So I was interested from the jump, but I didn't feel that the interest was mutual. So I stopped.
But did you see her as a conquest or somebody that, like, you wanted to take seriously when you first met her?
Somebody I really liked.
What is it?
I don't really think, I know we talk about that a lot, but I never just made a decision up front on what a chick was. Like, I never knew if we was going to like each other or not, or if it was going to develop into a relationship or not. Like, all I knew is I'm sexually attracted to you, so I need to figure out what's up and see if you feel the same way I do. And I just kind of played it by ear from there. Okay. But I was open to whatever, you know. I really liked her from the jump.
So when did you start dating your wife, even though it didn't work out when you first introduced yourself?
We started dating 2 years after that.
2 years after that. Okay. So did she know that you were a man whore?
No, I thought she did. You know what I'm saying? We talked about that. When we were kicking it. I remember one time she just came out one day, was like, "Man, are you sleeping with other people?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like I couldn't even believe you asked me that. You know what I'm saying? Like I just pledged Kappa. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, of course.
Oh
So
man.
I thought she knew, but she said she just thought I was a quiet dude that was really smart, like a nerd or whatever. So I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
This is why.
Like
This is why
it's
you were.
funny how,
This is why you were sleeping with her.
yeah, she just thought I was, nice guy, quiet, low key, whatever. And I'm thinking, like, for real. But you never know how other people perceive you. So she thought I was just a quiet nerd.
So, but this was your girlfriend at the time, or just somebody you just were seeing?
No. She was like my starting point guard on the team, but she wasn't my girlfriend. We was kicking it, but she was my star player on the team.
So, for those who want to know what kicking it means and star player on the team, she was one of the many girls that were coming to do laundry in this guy's apartment. Okay, but go ahead. So
she was my favorite one.
So how did she respond when she heard you say you were sleeping with other women?
She was like, man, I appreciate you being honest. She kind of went through I can't be sleeping with you, because by that time it had developed into a situationship, because she wanted a committed relationship, and I was like, man, look, I dumped my last girlfriend because I wanted to be single my senior year. So I'm open to seriously dating you after I graduate, but for now, nah. I'm gonna do the fool this last couple semesters.
Wow.
So it was that type of tension, like, and it created a conflict for me because my wife at the time was like the head bartender at the most popular club. So all my frat brothers and friends became cool with her so that they could get free drinks and smash her friends. So it was like she was at every event, you know what I'm saying? Like personal kickback, club party, Kappa party. She was at everything. And so it really limited my ability to be with my other chicks because she was my favorite one, you know what I'm saying? So I would end up going home with her. She would come to my crib type stuff. So I just realized, later that was intentional, that she was cock blocking like that or whatever.
Wow.
So that it frustrated me a lot, but my friends, they were like, "Oh, we getting free drinks. We've been invite Tyra and her friends through, you know what I'm saying?" Like, so they was. I'm like, "How she get here? I was trying to invite some other old things."
But if you went through that, right? So you guys are married now, but before that, you guys actually had a committed relationship prior to, right? Yeah. So was that rocky or was that easy, given your man-ho history?
Well, it's easy for me because I know what I like out of women. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I've had so much experience with women. I know what creates conflicts. I know how to resolve it, etc. So as far as dateability, I think dating a man that's a former hoe, there are a lot of positives that come with it. And so as long as my needs are met, I'm good. But the issue was, once we got in a committed relationship, the sex took a dive. So we went from smashing 4 or 5 times a week to having to beg for sex. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm in a situation where I got my old hoes mad at me for not living up to none of my dick appointments or the consistency I used to give. And I gotta beg for sex. You know what I'm saying? So that's what created the conflict.
This is while you're married or while you were in a committed relationship?
No, this is while once we got in a committed relationship. Why
did the sex go down when you got into a committed relationship?
I have no idea. My theory is, once women get a commitment out of the guy that they want, they know that they have leverage. If they know that you care about them and they know that you want to be with them and all that, That's the only thing that makes sense because I couldn't get it. I'm like, man, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do as a boyfriend.
Wow.
And so,
and what was her explanation
the problem? Man, it'd just be the typical stuff. I was just tired, or I just had a headache. I don't know why it went like that. Because when we were just kicking it, like I told you, it got to a situationship level to where I was trying to cut her off. Like, man, I told you I don't want to be in a relationship. We don't need to have sex no more. But she had come over and I was trying to cut things off and you wouldn't allow it. So I couldn't understand why it was such a drastic change once we got together. So that was the conflict.
But you know what's crazy about what you're saying? It's like, what's frustrating about that entire episode is that what that communicates to men who hear that, right, is committed relationships aren't rewarding in the way that men would like it to be, right? Because men are sexual creatures, we're visual, we're sexual, and a lot of what we like about you is the sexual experience, right? So when a man hears, and I was telling, a lot of people this, right? And a lot of women are saying like, no, that's not what happens. Sometimes blah, 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 blah. They just come up with all these excuses. But when a man hears, oh, the sex goes down during a relationship, men are like, why am I rushing to get into a relationship? Right? What's the point? Right? Women are like, oh, you just want to be out here in these streets. You're just a dog, this, that, and the third. I'm like, it seems like the benefits are to not be in a relationship.
It is the only reason that I can think of for a guy to get in a serious relationship is if he wants to have a family. If you want to have a family, the way relationships are set up for the most part, well, I think it's shifting now. There are more women open to like polyamorous relationships and things like that now. But historically, if you wanted to have a family unit and have a legacy, you had to get married and have kids. I didn't want no baby mamas. I saw, I came from the hood. I didn't want to have multiple kids in different households. Fatherhood was something that was always very important to me. So even in my whole days, I was careful about
that's good.
Sex and things of that nature. And so that's ultimately why I made the decision. I figured out she was wife material, and I knew that I wanted to have a family. I knew I wanted to be with somebody that I was really attracted to physically. And she shared the same goal of getting married once and making it work. As a man, I always felt I was going to be successful. And I knew that it would be difficult for me to want to go from being a bachelor to being single if I was already six figures and already making the kind of money I make now. So now that I see the problems that my partners have, where they like, man, I don't know if she like me for this or just because she know how much I make or whatever. That's a tough situation to be in. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but what separated your now wife from the, several women that you were sleeping with when you first met her?
She was on some grown woman shit. Like, she, even though she had a dad who was a colonel in the military that could give her credit cards and pay all her bills and stuff, she went out and got a job, was working multiple jobs. She was a bartender and she worked at the mall. You know what I'm saying? Like, so she was making grown folk money. She would make $1,500 a weekend at the club. And so she's the type, she called her dad like, hey, I'm gonna pay my own insurance from now on. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and when I was dating her, she paid for stuff, so like that kind of, actually, I got a quick story. The situation that really just kind of let me know that I could marry her. We went to school in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay.
And we had a football game in Houston. So, and at the game in Houston, I totaled my car. So boom, I done totaled my car and out of town. So she arranged for me to ride back with her people. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to spend no money. She just, hey, he need a ride. She made it happen. So boom, we already kicking it. And so I buy a new vehicle and I got to go get my old speakers and stuff out of my old car. So I invite her, hey, want to ride to Houston for me? I'm gonna go there. We're gonna turn around the next day and come back. So we go on like a vacation type vibe for the weekend. Everything's great. So as we're about to leave Houston, we go out to eat at Papa Do's. So boom, we eat dinner. Everything is cool. The bill come out as 50 something bucks. So I'm just playing around. I said, man, I asked her, I was like, what would you do if I said I forgot my wallet? And she was like, I'll just pay for it. So I call her bluff. I'm like, well, I ain't got my wallet then. So she gets up, she goes to the bathroom and she comes out and she pays for the shit. So I'm in my head like, I thought she was bullshitting. So I'm like, damn, she really just spent $60 something on food. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's a lot in the 90s.
That was a lot then. So we get in the car and she's driving. We drive back to Houston. To Louisiana. Dog, she's not saying, she didn't speak to me the whole trip. You know what I'm saying?
What you mean?
So
why?
She did, literally, she's driving and listening to the radio. Like, she didn't talk to me the whole trip. Like, in her mind, well, what I later found out, she went in the bathroom and called her dad, like, Dad, this plan, I ain't gonna pay for the food. He told her, go on and put it on the credit card. So she had mentally cut me off. You know what I'm saying? So, but this is the key. As we're riding, she didn't know I slid $60 in the side of her purse that's on the ground. So after I drop her off, she's slamming doors, taking her bags, and she storm off, no hug, no nothing. So I shoot her a text, man, check your purse, you know what I'm saying? And so she found the money that I left afterward. That's the only thing that saved the situation. And so that was the kind of the final spark that was like, damn, even though she had a little attitude, you know what I'm saying? But I redeemed myself, the fact that I was just playing and I actually had the money. So it was you know. But
here's where I'm confused.
Could have went either way.
I'm confused. Here's where I'm confused. You said one of the things that made her stand apart from the other many women that you were sleeping with was the fact that she handled her own. She was making money. She was, hooking this up. Like, you needed help with this, she hooked you up with that, and so on and so forth. But when I guess you called her bluff with the whole meal,
that was the first time that would happen. Like, we had sex a couple of times, but after that, that's when we were dating seriously. And so that was her first time ever spending money like that. Prior to that, she had never.
So what is it about
what
that
made me want to marry her?
No, what made you want to take her seriously in a relationship prior to getting married? And if that's one of the reasons, that circumstance with the whole $60 thing, what is it about that scenario that made her seem like wifey material when she stormed off after paying $60?
Well, it wasn't just that. I had figured out she had the qualities that I consider to be wife material prior to that.
Which is
how she treated others, how her ambition, how the vibe that she gives off to others, how she interacts with other people. She's well respected. She's admired by other people. She's one of the people. She's very much like me in trying to make sure everything flows. So even if she's at an event that somebody else is doing, she's going to offer to help. Hey, where's the trash bags? Where's this? Let me do this. It's like, so we're very helpful people in that sense. We had a lot in common. So she had already met the criteria for somebody I could be with before then. But I didn't think she was seriously dating me because she had curved me before then. So I thought we was just smashing, you know what I'm saying? Like, wasn't looking at it like we seriously dating. But when she did the fact that she rode out, she got me a ride and made sure I was good.
Yeah.
You dropped your plans and went out of town with me. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we in a hotel the whole weekend. Like, we plan. That's kind of my first time taking a chick out of town for real. And so when she paid for the food, I just thought she was bullshitting. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't believe she actually did it.
And she was. So
I was impressed by that because she didn't have to. Like, I would never.
Well, technically, she was bullshitting because she got mad when she did it.
Well, she said she would do it. She didn't tell me how she would feel.
That's the difference. Okay, so you got married, right? Now, was it a difficult transition for you to go from being a single man to being married after sleeping with so many women prior to meeting your wife?
Nah. It actually, to me, it makes it easier because if you're dating a guy that has been a hoe and has slept with lots of women, he's not anxious to do it. He's not itching to do it. Like a lot of guys are late bloomers. They don't have those early teenage experiences.
Yeah.
So it's hard to resist if you've never had it. So I think in one sense that made me better equipped to deal with it. But I still had issues. I mean, we still had issues early on in the marriage. One, the sex issue was not completely resolved. It was still lower than I wanted it to be. It was better than it was at first, but it still wasn't completely resolved. So I ended up cheating. But another thing that actually just kind of threw a loop in things was me releasing my first book.
Okay.
My first book is titled Game Recognized Game, and so it's a novel about a girl that graduates from an HBCU and starts working at a radio station, and the games men and women play when they first start having sex or whatever. So it's real sexual and erotic or whatnot. And so I was letting people read it as I was writing it. So they would read the preview, and then it would just spark all kind of conversations and interactions. So it led to lots of inappropriate pictures, inappropriate conversations, just sex with coworkers, things that just inappropriate stuff that went down just because of the aura that the book created. Okay. So that put a lot of pressure on things.
So when you were saying that the sex was not where you wanted to be and you cheated, was this like a one-time cheating thing, or was this multiple times?
It was multiple times, but it was like every blue moon, every couple of months. It wasn't like I just was smashing a chick every weekend. I would just, emergencies only type stuff. You know what I'm saying? I would hit up somebody I was already smashing. Like I wasn't meeting new chicks and trying to do all that because I felt it was too risky. But I would hit up some of my old chicks that I had already smashed that I knew how we were still on that level with occasionally and link up.
So the part that I don't understand is you already went through the whole, not enough sex in the relationship phase when you first started dating your wife, right? And you said it wasn't completely resolved, but yet you still decided to get married and then cheated after. So why did you get married for something that was unresolved?
Well, a lot of promises. When we were going through marriage counseling, it's once we get married, this. Well, once we get married, this. Like a lot of the promises to a lot of promises to seal the deal. You know what I'm saying? So, and when you're having a conversation and the pastor's refereeing it, you think it's genuine. You know what I'm saying? But to her defense, I don't, like I said earlier, I don't think she had an idea how sexual I actually was as a bachelor. Yeah. That I was juggling 5 or 6 chicks a month type stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of women are clueless about what it actually takes to maintain a guy's sexual relationship. Because if you just look at it from a number standpoint, I went from sleeping with 5 to 6 women a month for 20, 30 months straight to where I'm being faithful over a year and I just hit one of my old hoes once or twice. Like from a guy, that's like a 97% reduction. You know what I'm saying? So from my perspective, I'm like, fool, look how much sex I done passed up when I'm not even satisfied. You know what I mean? So from a guy perspective, that's I know I shouldn't have cheated, but man, I could have done way worse. I could have been out here doing the food, bringing home STDs, all type of stuff, but I didn't. But see, those are the things that men never get credit for. It's like a 0 or 100%, and it's like, well, hold on. That ain't how men view it.
But that's interesting. You said that because a lot of people think like a faithful man is like status quo, right? Like a faithful man is something that shouldn't be congratulated. It should be like, oh, of course you should be faithful to her. This is what you're supposed to do. And this, like a lot of ladies need to understand that when a man decides, it's a decision. When you decide to be faithful, it's a choice, right? It's a choice you make against your natural desires to want to explore sexually. And they're doing that as a sacrifice to you. And it's a sacrifice that they make using their own, sacrificing their own personal desires. Now, of course, you could still be attracted to your woman. You can be attracted to your wife. But at the same time, if he's choosing to be faithful, you got to look at this guy like this guy is really going to bat for you, because this is not normal for him, especially if it's a guy that had options. For women, it's a lot easier. I think it's a lot easier for women to be faithful because a lot of women go through their single phase looking for security within one person, right? And then once they get that security for that one person, that gives them more satisfaction. There's emotional security, there's financial security, there's all kinds of things, right? There's social security. But for a guy, he might be looking to continue the type of activity he's always had and maybe even supplement it, right, with the person that he ultimately wants to be with. But then when that person gets into that relationship, this is realization on both ends. She realizes, damn, this guy's got a lot more sexual drive than I do, right? Or two, you realize, I don't know if I can get all of what I used to get from one woman. Right?
Yeah, that I mean, it is. That's part of it. But then when you add in stuff like careers, kids, life, just life, there are things that cause the sex to go down. So it's not like it's just a woman's fault or it's an intentional thing. I think there are lots of factors that come into play all at one time. But you're right, man. When guys are doing that, the problem with it, or one, women don't give credit for the faithfulness. But the second thing is it's impossible to prove or verify. And so
what's impossible?
Although women use whether somebody's actually being faithful or not.
Okay.
Like you don't know if somebody was cheating until they either get caught or some side effect happens, a baby, a STD, etc. So a person could cheat one time, get some head from a coworker, and you never know. Like you don't know if they cheated or not. So a lot of the guys that women praise as being faithful, he could just be very
careful,
slick, or very careful.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like I don't use whether I think a dude is faithful or not when I'm evaluating a man. I don't care who you sleeping with, or if you faithful to your girl. So
how did you get caught?
Oh, I didn't get caught. I told her. like we was going.
Hold on, wait. What? Hold on, wait.
I ain't get caught.
Bro, my brain's on fire, bro. So wait, how did you end up telling your wife on your own accord that you cheated on her?
Because I got so frustrated that I moved out. So we got separated, and I thought we was about to get divorced. So when I told her, like, yeah, I cheated, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I explained, like, it was like almost 2 years ago. So at that point, I didn't really care no more. You know what I'm saying? I was checking out.
Yeah, but my thing is, how soon into the marriage did you cheat?
I didn't cheat until about 11 months after, almost a year.
So almost a year into the marriage, you cheated, which implies your frustration started probably months prior to that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
I felt it was justified. I felt I did everything a man's supposed to do in that situation. Talk, do the romance, get some candles, get some, you know what I'm saying? Do all the extra stuff. And when none of it worked, I was like, okay, that's real.
Really? So
and responded accordingly.
So how did you guys resolve it? Did you guys resolve it?
Man, she completely changed. With that month, I moved in with one of my frat brothers for about a month. She didn't allow me to get back into single lifestyle. So she was very strategic about it. You know what I'm saying? Like once that happened, it was sex all the time. She was coming through. We was having. So I'm like, I knew it was manipulation.
That's crazy.
But I didn't really want to get divorced in the first place. I was just so pissed off about the sex situation. So when I moved back in, it was better. You know what I mean? It was manageable after that. So, but I don't know why it even had to get to that. Because it's like it would be different if I wasn't living up to my end as a husband. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not out here chasing hoes. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So when I was ready to move out, I just told her what it was. I didn't care about the consequences at that point.
Do you think there's a correlation between a man's access to other women and a woman's desire for that man who has access to other women?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think women are really interested in the dudes that aren't attractive to other women. And as a guy that, has lived the whole phase, your reputation, there are a lot of women that slept with me because they heard I could snatch their soul or whatever. So all that kind of stuff come into play that shows you that women want men that have the things other women like.
Snatch their soul. You can't just brush over that. That's like a very quotable moment right there. Like, what? Dude, that's wild. So would you say that cheating on your wife saved your marriage?
I wouldn't necessarily say saved, but I think it opened her eyes to how bad things were and how serious I was about change.
Wow.
So I guess in a sense you could say that.
So knowing what you know now throughout your entire experience, going through your whole phase, and then having that moment where you had to seek other women sexually while being married, if you look back, what do you think you could have done different for that not to have even been the case? Or is that not even possible?
I really don't know. I felt like I did everything that a guy could reasonably do. You have discussions about it. You talk about what can we do that you like, or what can we do to increase it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but when a woman that is relatively inexperienced gets with a dude that got a triple digit body count, there's gonna be imbalance. Like a lot of women don't really know what they like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not going everywhere looking for new dick. You know what I'm saying? Like, so their perspective on sex ain't the same. And the value that they place on sex places a lot of bias on that. Like I'm having sex to bust a nut. I'm having sex because I like giving pleasure to women. Like, so, I'm not looking to replace my wife or get with another woman. It's to fulfill a need. Now, what I've learned now, being a relationship coach and, being an influencer, all the things that go into being a hoe and the process of shooting your shot and going from being strangers to lovers, that creates a lot of emotional experiences for men that can't be duplicated with a committed relationship. Yeah. Like, first time getting a chick to take her panties off for you can't be duplicated. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's actually happening. But play it cool.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that I don't think women just they don't really have any experience with, because they don't have to work for sex.
That's interesting, because I had another person on the podcast who was coaching men, and he was walking me through what experiences a lot of these guys go through, and sometimes he had to remind me, because I've had a decent amount of experience with women, right? And a lot of things come a little bit more natural to me given that experience. And I didn't have it as early as you did. I was a bit of a late bloomer, meaning like I didn't really start to get any real experience until in my mid-20s, right? You were married by then. But that's when I was really going hard. But yes, men have a bit of a difficulty that a lot of women don't experience when it comes to like, having access to sex. So what are some of the things that you think is the reason a lot of men don't have any expertise in that part of their life sexually?
Because a lot of for now in this time period, I think because a lot of the communication is digital through text, through DMs and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And so there's not as much emphasis as linking up and just sitting in the car talking for hours or sitting on the porch talking, like those heart-to-heart conversations that we used to have back in the day. That happens less now. So the society is kind of dating is in a fast forward type, mode, where you go from texting to talking to sexting to having sex. You know what I'm saying? And that can happen in a couple of days, to be honest. So I think that lack of interpersonal communication is what is ultimately what's hurting the dating scene. But on one hand, it makes it easier to get sex. It just makes it more difficult to find a committed relationship.
Interesting. That's, I don't know. It kind of concerns me a little bit, because if you're a guy with like a lot of experience and you decide to get married, does that dissatisfaction ever go away with the quality or quantity of sex you're getting from an individual partner versus a lot of partners?
You said, does the satisfaction go away?
What do you mean? Meaning like, do you find that you are receiving enough sex in your marriage now where it's not a problem at all, or is it an ongoing conversation? Is it an ongoing fight?
I could always use some more sex. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's manageable. It's to the point where I don't have the frustration that I had early on.
Got it.
But just as a man, I don't know. I would think that this applies to all guys or most guys, but I still see women and desire other women all the time. I just handle it different. You know, I respond to my whole urges a lot different now, because I don't want to lose what I have, the value I see on my family and my relationship and my lifestyle. So it takes conscious effort when I'm feeling thirsty, or, you know what I'm saying, or I'm in a situation where I can tell a woman's attracted to me. Okay. Like back in the day, I would strategically be getting closer to her, be, you know, turning my body towards her, like just all the little stuff that you do to let her know that you like her like that. Now I'll try to intentionally avoid women that I know got the sundress on or got stuff that I know is going put me in my mood.
It's, you know, sundress season, baby. So yeah, you have a child now.
Yeah, I have a daughter.
You have a daughter. When you had a daughter, when you first had your daughter, was there anything about your experience with women in the past that concerned you about raising a daughter yourself?
No, I knew I'd be a great dad.
Not that you wouldn't be a bad dad. I'm saying, like, you've had a lot of experience with women. So you know a lot of things that women go through. Well,
yeah. I was concerned because a lot of what I've observed with my female friends and family members is they make a lot of dumb decisions when it comes to dating and men. A lot of their decisions are emotion based or based off some fairy tales or some assumption. And so that's why I'm kind of on the crusade that I'm on, to try to tell women how men actually think and operate in a candid, brutally honest way. Because I think the misinformation, the relationship quotes and all, you know, the fake relationship gurus fill their heads with stuff that ultimately hurts them on the dating market. So for my daughter, I would just hope she don't end up doing nothing stupid or getting pregnant as a teen, or, you know, like getting, you know, just rebelling and doing something dumb to try to make me mad or something like that. So hopefully she observes the lifestyle her parents have put forth for her, and she looks for a dude that's like me.
So
that handle his business, that's family oriented, you know, that does all the things that it takes to be a quality husband.
So let me ask you a question. Like, what you mentioned that a lot of women get, you know, in their emotions when making decisions, and there's a lot of fake gurus that kind of like warp a woman's perspective on, you know, how to find the right person. What do you think is the worst advice that is given to women today about finding a partner?
He's just not the one.
What is
Like
that?
this whole concept of the one is problematic in my opinion.
What do you mean? Why is
Because
that?
I don't think that, because there's no such thing as the one. Like if you're a person that has the looks and the personality that would attract the opposite sex, there are going to be several people that you could possibly link up with.
Okay.
So the other factors come into play: your location, your lifestyle, your race. You know, all those things come into play. So there's just one person in the universe that you have to beacon and meet in order to have a relationship. Like that concept doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because any two people after you break up, you're gonna find somebody else willing to date you and have sex with you. Like that's like, and from a male perspective, especially, if the one was the thing, people would just fall in love and stay together. But it's not. You can fall out of love or break up, get divorced, and you can, if you're a quality person, you're gonna meet somebody else that's willing to date you. So I think that just philosophies that a lot of women have are flawed to begin with.
Interesting. Okay. Well, listen, this was.
What do you think? So what would you say is the biggest issue with dating these days?
Dating these days, or for women, or just in general?
In general.
I think the biggest issue is everyone's got a different definition of what it's supposed to be like. Okay?
Sure.
If you think about what I mentioned earlier in the podcast, especially since you mentioned your experience in the 90s, right? I think part of the reason you had success is because you capitalized on a lot of simple things, simple pleasures that we don't have anymore. Right? The simple pleasure of you meeting women through friends. You're meeting people like casually through other acquaintances. That's a luxury compared to how compartmentalized people are now. Right? Because now it's all about like who's...
Never thought about that.
Yeah. So if you think about it now, everybody's got like social media friends, and now everything's linked through like your online persona. Right? It's not like that. It's not like the 90s anymore, right? I'm not saying the 90s was better or worse. You capitalize on that. The other thing is, because you were dating people through acquaintances, there's a lot of like common ground already. Okay?
True.
So now when people are seeing each other from different, like people are dating each other in other states, other countries, you have access to so many things that it's harder to try to have common ground with someone that has a completely different background. Right? So now you're trying to find the one amongst a larger pool of people, where it becomes more complicated because you have different motives, different values that you're now trying to blend, right? Versus you guys all went to the same school. You guys knew some of the same people. You guys probably listened to the same music, going to the same events. So it's like you're just having an ongoing conversation just with a different person. Right? So so what is a relationship then was probably commonly understood. Now you have people coming from different countries, different religions, different type of families, different regions of you know, even your area, different things that they follow online that might create this mindset versus that mindset. So everyone's got a different definition of, that's why there's like so many stages. There's, you guys are talking, or you talking? Are you in a situationship or are you in a relationship? You know what I mean? Are you exclusive? Are you exclusive sexually but not exclusive talking? Like what? Those are the things that are the biggest.
I can see that.
Those are the things that I think are the biggest issues, is people are having an identity crisis of their situation in a relationship, versus like, I've met some people who've been disconnected from online, right? And everyone in the 90s was removed from it. So that was the mindset. It's like you kiss a girl, you make out with her, you have sex with her or whatever. Like that's pretty much your girl, unless she was completely in disarray in her life, right? So I think that's the major downside to what people are experiencing dating today.
Yeah, I mean, I hear about, people's problems all the time and the problems once they get in a relationship. So I think a lot of people struggle to maintain the relationships because they're constantly comparing themselves and what they have to what they see on social media.
Yeah.
And so if you're not grounded in what a healthy relationship supposed to look like, what it looks like for a household to run, and function. If you haven't observed those things before, then I can see why you'd be clueless about it. But I guess for me, it felt like common sense because even though I felt like I was preparing to be a husband and father ever since my teenage years, I don't feel like it was that difficult. Like, I think if you're a man that you have your priorities in order and you managing your bills and stuff for your apartment, then when you get a wife and kids, they just gonna increase a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still the same concepts, the same philosophies. Being willing to make the sacrifices that come with being a husband or being, if you have a realistic perspective on it, it's not always going to be good, and it's not always going to be your wife coming home to some fancy plate or some fancy dinner. So a lot of times you take L's as a husband. Your wife or daughter do something that costs you $1,600. You know what I'm saying? Something at the house breaks, something go wrong, and usually you're the one sacrificing the things that you want for the things your family needs. And that
sex
comes with it. Sometimes it comes with having to be the bad guy and tell the family no.
Yeah.
Your wife and daughter, hey, Dad, can we go here? Can we do this? And you got to tell them no. You got to be the bad guy sometimes. So just having a realistic perspective on what to expect out of a real life relationship, I think that's what's missing. Because to me, even if you're boyfriend and girlfriend, you're going to be, if you're dealing with real life, you're going to be dealing with real problems and real issues. And those don't really change once you get married.
Okay. So you decided to be a coach, given all this experience, because you're spitting some real game right now that I think, a lot of people don't even fully understand until someone either walks through the whole thing with them or they experience it themselves. So in the spirit of like coaching people, I want to introduce you to a couple of questions that I received from either guests of the show or listeners of the show. Okay? We're going to start with the first one.
Why is it that every young males are very okay bashing women? Like, that's not okay.
How do you feel about that?
I think the word bashing gets misused. The word bashing means harsh, threatening criticism. So unless you just say, yo, bitch, is this, yo, hoes, just talking to women in a very demeaning, disrespectful way, I don't feel like telling women what they're doing that creates problem with men or what's causing them struggle with dating. I don't consider that bashing women. But apparently in the social media world, anytime you criticize women's thinking or behavior or their approach to dating, it gets categorized as bashing. So I think that word is overused and misused an awful lot. Guys that are disrespectful and just demeaning or degrading to women, I don't understand their mindset. But if you're giving constructive criticism, especially from an authentic place, I don't consider that to be bashing.
Interesting. I think there's a fine line, right? Because I think there's this wave now of, men are waking up to a lot of like things that they've had to endure and they're speaking out on it, right? But there's also men that kind of cross the line of, okay, speaking truth and just literally insulting people and trying to make a point, trying to get clickbaits, trying to get popularity through, repeating some of the same statistics by, talking really negatively about one group, and women do it too. Right. So I think there are people who are really trying to spit game or who are really trying to educate people or really trying to better communities, but there are also people who are just trying to highlight the negativity and make that the majority of the content and just basically insulting different groups of people in a very generalized way to get like popularity. So I think that also happens, and I think that's probably why this person's talking about it that way. And it might even happen just in a local way where it's just like in someone's living room, where that's how the conversation's based. You see? So
Yeah.
that happens too. And when I have conversations with people, I never, I don't want to say I never, that's false. I very rarely say, you know, women always seem to do this. Women is not like a basketball team. You know what I mean? Like they're like, it's like golf. Everyone has a different way of playing and they're living their lives in a particular way. And there's sometimes they influence each other in a lot of ways, but it's never all the same. Right? Someone might have a repeated experience because that seems to be what they're attracting, or that seems to be the default to how people treat them because of how they are. But like, I don't like the idea of saying like women are this or men are that. Like, come on,
Yeah, it's tough, man, and because when I have a conversation with somebody, I expect common sense to be sprinkled in place.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think if I'm talking about something that men commonly experience and I say men this, if it's something that 7, 8 that applies to a large percentage of men, I think everybody understands that there are going to be exceptions to the rule. So I don't think you need some men, some women, like I think just saying that over and over again kind of waters down the conversation. But I definitely understand where you're coming from, where people, not all women, you know, like that's the most common comment in my comment section. Not all women are like that, Terry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, of course not. Well, so if this don't apply to you, then you shouldn't be in your feelings. You shouldn't have responded, because I'm not going to respond to something about bum, you know, deadbeat dads or single men. This, like, if it's not something that applies to me, I'm not offended by it.
right.
So,
But you might not be offended by it, but sometimes it might affect you even though you're not offended by it, right? Because when people say men do this, men do that. So now when you walk into a room and you have a penis, now you're going to get treated accordingly, not based on who you are. You're going to get treated based on people's idea of who you are. So sometimes there's a false narrative just by being a man. You see what I'm saying? Same thing with the woman.
Yeah.
Guys are saying women do this, women do that. So now if some young dude hears this and that's all he knows, all he hears. So let's say some innocent bystander woman is, you know, with a good heart, wants to do right, and she's being treated like trash because she's a woman. Women want, I'm like, you didn't even get to know this person. You know what I mean? So that's where it gets like a little dangerous, where the generalizations are helpful to push a conversation forward, but they can also kind of like miss the mark when you're really trying to get people to have a level of understanding. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to have these conversations, man, especially about these sensitive topics.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy them and I think they're very valuable to have, but it's just a growing pain to have these conversations. Okay, you got time for one more?
Yeah.
All right.
What if you had to give a title to this chapter specifically in your life where you are right now, what would it be?
If I have to give a title to this chapter, I call it the come up. I've been putting a lot of things in place, doing a lot of investing in myself. I have a lot of things that are coming out. My podcast is blooming. I'm doing all right on social media. I'm starting to see results from a lot of the work that I put in. And I feel like I'm just getting started. So I would say this chapter would be titled The Come Up.
The come up. All right. I like that. So in the spirit of the come up, and you have your own podcast and so on and so forth, I want you to ask a couple questions that you want the next guest to answer.
All right. Well, my first question that I have is, what do you think makes a social media influencer credible?
Okay. Fair enough. Next one.
My second question would be, how do you define a healthy relationship?
That's another good one. You got one more?
No, those are the only two that I just
That's okay.
that I had.
That's okay. That's okay. No, that I'm gonna have fun getting those questions answered. That's a good one. All right. Give everybody a chance to know how they can find you and what type of programs you got coming up that they can take advantage of.
Majority of my content is on Instagram at Terry Duran. You can purchase my books or book an advice session with me using the link in my bio on Instagram, or you can go to terryduran.com. The name of my podcast is Hold a Husband Podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts. It's on Google Play. And it's on Podbean. It's actually a video podcast where you can watch me and my co-host discuss various topics, and we bring on different guests to discuss dating and relationships from various perspectives. So that's where people can reach out to me and get access to my content.
That's beautiful, man. My name is Jeff Demise. You can find me at j.damisse for Instagram or j_damisse for Twitter. For the podcast, it's introspect_club. That's for everything IG, Twitter, everything YouTube. We're on all streaming platforms. Make sure you guys rate and review us, like, subscribe, comment. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear your feedback and interact with us. Shoot us a DM if you have any questions you want answered on the show, just like today. And if you are a unique individual that also has a unique experience that other people can benefit or learn from, reach out to me. I might be able to get you on the show. My man, this was a great conversation, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too, man. I enjoy conversations like this, man. I'm happy to get you on a podcast, bro.
Oh, no, we're definitely going to do it. We got to do like a continuation of this conversation, and I might expose a little bit more about what I got going on. Listen, thank you so much for the conversation. You were phenomenal. Until next time.
All right, man. Peace.
Later.